Shalom, little one. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's continue with our story in Shemot Exodus. Mosheh and Aharon stood at the gates of Pharaoh's great palace. The walls of Mitzrayim rose high above them, lined with statues of gods made by human hands. The air smelled of incense and stone, of riches and power. Servants rushed about, their heads bowed low, careful never to look Pharaoh in the eyes. Soldiers stood tall, gripping their spears, their faces unreadable. For years, the people of Israel had cried out under the weight of their suffering. Now, Mosheh and Aharon had come to deliver a message, not from themselves, not from men, but from the one who had spoken from the burning bush. They stepped forward, their feet heavy yet steady. They were brought before Pharaoh, who sat upon his throne, surrounded by his magicians, advisors, and scribes. He wore a crown of gold, his robe gleaming in the torchlight. His eyes were sharp, piercing, watching them with curiosity and suspicion. And then Mosheh and Aharon spoke. The Elohim of Yisrael says, "Let my people go, that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." Silence filled the great hall. Pharaoh leaned forward, his lips curling. "The Elohim of Yisrael?" he repeated. His voice was amused. Mocking, his advisors chuckled under their breath. The gods of Mitzrayim were carved in stone, worshipped in grand temples, honored by the greatest nation on earth. Who was this Elohim that Mosheh and Aharon spoke of? Pharaoh's voice hardened. Who is this Elohim that I should obey him and let Yisrael go? I do not know him, and I will not let Yisrael go. Moshe's throat tightened, but he did not waver. The Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, he said. Let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and offer sacrifices to him, or he may strike us with plague or with the sword. Pharaoh's expression darkened. His gaze swept over them, 2 old men, dressed in the robes of shepherds, standing before the most powerful ruler in the world, demanding the freedom of his laborers. His voice rose in anger. Why do you, Mosheh and Aharon, take the people away from their work? Return to your burdens. He slammed his staff against the floor. These Hebrews are already too many in number, and now you want them to rest from their labor? No, they will work harder. The doors to the palace swung open. Mosheh and Aharon were thrown out. And that very day, Pharaoh sent new orders to the taskmasters. The next morning, the men of Yisrael stood in the sun, waiting for their daily supply of straw. Straw was needed to make bricks. It held them together, made them strong. But when the taskmasters arrived, there was no straw to be found. One of the Hebrews stepped forward. Where is the straw? He asked cautiously. The taskmaster smirked. No more straw will be given to you. You must gather it yourselves. A murmur of confusion spread through the workers. One man shook his head. But if we must gather the straw, how will we meet our daily quota of bricks? The taskmaster's smile faded. Figure it out, he said coldly. And if you fail, you will be beaten. The people scattered, rushing to the fields, searching for any scrap of straw they could find. They gathered dry stalks from the roadsides, pulling up weeds, collecting whatever they could. But it was never enough. The quotas remained the same, and when they failed, the whips cracked. Day after day, the elders of Yisrael went before Pharaoh, pleading for mercy. We are doing all we can, they said, but we have no straw. Why do you treat your servants this way? We are beaten, yet the fault is not ours. But Pharaoh only scoffed. You are lazy, he said. That is why you cry. Let us go and offer sacrifices. Now get back to work. No straw will be given to you. Yet you must still make the same number of bricks." The elders left, their heads bowed, their hearts heavy with despair. They had hoped for freedom. Instead, things had become worse. As they walked back, they saw Mosheh and Aharon waiting for them. Their eyes filled with anger, they rushed forward, their voices bitter. "May Elohim judge you," they said, their faces dark with sorrow. "You have made us a stench in Pharaoh's sight. You have placed a sword in his hand to kill us." Moshe stood still. He had known it would not be easy, but he had not expected this. Their eyes, once filled with hope, now held only despair. Their trust in him had faded, and in that moment, Moshe turned his face toward the heavens. His voice trembled. "Adonai," he whispered, "why have you brought harm to this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done nothing but bring more suffering upon them. And still, you have not delivered your people." Silence hung in the air. The cries of Yisrael echoed in the distance. Moshe stood alone, his heart heavy. The people of Yisrael had turned against him. Their suffering had increased. Their burdens had grown heavier, and they no longer believed that deliverance would come. And so Moshe lifted his eyes toward the heavens and cried out, "Adonai, why have you brought harm to this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done nothing but bring more suffering upon them. And still, you have not delivered your people." The wind whispered through the wilderness. The weight of despair pressed down upon him. But then a voice, deep, steady, unshaken, spoke to Moshe. "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand he will let them go, and with a strong hand he will drive them out of his land." Moshe took a slow breath. He had not expected deliverance to be so difficult, but the voice continued, "I am Elohim. I appeared to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov as El Shaddai, but by my name I did not make myself known to them. I established my covenant with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as strangers. I have heard the groaning of the children of Yisrael, whom the Mitzraites are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Now say to the children of Israel, I am Elohim, and I will bring you out from under the burden of the Mitzraites. I will rescue you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you as my people, and I will be your Elohim. You shall know that I am Elohim, who brings you out from under the burdens of the Mitzraites. And I will bring you into the land that I swore to give to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, and I will give it to you as an inheritance. I am Elohim." Moshe's heart burned within him. These were not the words of a man. These were not the promises of earthly kings. This was the covenant of the Most High. He would not abandon his people. Moshe rose to his feet. He left the wilderness and returned to the people of Yisrael. He gathered the elders, the fathers, the men and women whose backs were bent under Pharaoh's cruelty, whose hands were cracked and bleeding from the labor of slavery. He looked into their eyes, eyes filled with exhaustion, with sorrow, with doubt, and he spoke the words Elohim had given him. He told them of the promise, of the deliverance that was coming, of the mighty hand that would set them free. But their hearts had grown weary, their spirits had been crushed, and they would not listen. The sound of their sighs filled the air, their shoulders sagging with defeat. Moshe felt the weight of it pressing upon him. How could he lead a people who had lost all hope? And then the voice of Elohim spoke to him again. "Go in, speak to Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and tell him to let the children of Yisrael go out of his land." Moshe closed his eyes. "Adonai," he whispered, "the people of Israel will not listen to me. How then will Pharaoh listen to me? For I am slow of speech." But Elohim did not relent. He had chosen Moshe for this task, and Pharaoh would not resist forever. Elohim spoke to Mosheh and Aharon, commanding them concerning the children of Yisrael and concerning Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. They were to bring the people out of the land, no matter what stood in their way. The names of the sons of Yisrael, the tribes that had grown from Abraham's seed, were called forth: Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Binyamin, Yosef. And Mosheh and Aharon were set apart, chosen by Elohim, to stand before Pharaoh and to lead these tribes, the 12 sons who had become a nation, out of slavery. They would go again to Pharaoh. They would speak the words they had been given. And though Pharaoh's heart was hardened, though his pride was great, the one who sent them was greater, and soon the power of Elohim would be seen. All of Mitzrayim would tremble. The people of Israel would be freed, and the world would know that their Elohim had come to deliver them. Until next time, Laila Tov, little one, Shalom.